I never planned to build my empire from my parents' basement. Life has a strange way of turning mockery into motivation. And in my case, every dismissive comment from my family only fueled my determination to succeed, even if they couldn't see it. My name is Sophia Chen, and at 28, I'm the secret CEO of Digiflow Solutions, a company valued at over $300 million. But to my family, I'm just their unemployed daughter who spends too much time on her laptop in the basement. The basement wasn't always my workspace. 5 years ago, I had a prestigious job at Goldman Sachs, complete with the corner office and six-figure salary that made my parents proud. Every family dinner, they'd introduce me as our daughter, the investment banker. My father would beam with pride, telling anyone who'd listen about my MBA from Harvard and my bright future in finance. Then I saw something that changed everything. Working on merger deals at Goldman, I noticed a massive gap in the market for streamlined digital transformation solutions. Major companies were struggling with their digital transition, losing millions due to inefficient processes. I knew I could build something better, a comprehensive platform that would revolutionize how businesses operate. The day I quit Goldman Sachs, my father's face turned ashen. "You're throwing away everything we invested in you," he said, his voice trembling with anger. My mother burst into tears, lamenting how she faced her friends at the country club. "I have a plan," I tried to explain. "I'm starting my own company." "A company?" My father scoffed. "You mean one of those internet things that never make money? No daughter of mine is going to become a basement entrepreneur." But that's exactly what I became. With my savings dwindling, I moved back home. The basement became my headquarters, not out of choice, but necessity. Every dollar I had went into developing my platform. I hired developers from around the world, working across time zones, building something revolutionary while my family thought I was just playing on my computer. The comments started slowly at first. "Sophia, honey, maybe it's time to look for a real job," my mother would say, bringing me dinner on a tray. "Mrs. Anderson's daughter is hiring at her law firm, even just as an assistant." My father was less subtle. "You're wasting your life," he'd shout during family dinners. "Look at your cousin, Michael. He just made junior partner. And here you are, living in our basement like a teenager." What they didn't know was that while they were comparing me to my cousins, I was on video calls with Silicon Valley investors. While they thought I was browsing social media, I was coordinating with a team of 30 developers across 3 continents. The hardest part wasn't the work, it was maintaining my cover. I had to take investor calls in whispers after midnight. When a major tech blog featured Digiflow Solutions as the next big thing in digital transformation, I couldn't share my excitement. When we landed our first $1 million client, I had to pretend I was just having a good day because I found a new Netflix series. Then came the turning point. My father's company, Morton Manufacturing, was struggling. They failed to adapt to the digital age, losing contracts to more technologically advanced competitors. I overheard him on the phone one night, voice heavy with worry, discussing the possibility of selling the business. That same week, during our monthly family dinner, my Uncle Peter decided to give me another one of his motivational speeches. "You know, Sophia," he said, swirling his expensive wine, "when I was your age, I was already running my own division. Now look at you, almost 30, still figuring out what to do with your life." My mother jumped in, trying to help in her own misguided way. "She's just going through a phase. Maybe if she met a nice young man." I saw a position for a data entry clerk. My Aunt Margaret added kindly, "Entry level, but it could be a fresh start." I sat there, forks suspended over my untouched pasta, as my family discussed my apparent failure. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket, probably another update about our expansion into the European market. "The problem," my father announced to the table, "is that she spends all day on that laptop. What can anyone possibly accomplish staring at a screen in a basement?" Little did they know, in just 3 days, they would find out exactly what I had accomplished. Digiflow Solutions, through one of our subsidiary companies, was about to make an offer to buy Morton Manufacturing. Not to save it, though that would be a nice bonus, but because their patents and manufacturing capabilities were exactly what we needed for our expansion into IoT devices. The irony of it all almost made me laugh right there at the dinner table. Almost. My father mistook my slight smile for defiance. "You think this is funny? Your mother and I are worried sick about you. When are you going to grow up and face reality?" I carefully set down my fork. Actually, Dad, I've been meaning to tell you, I have a meeting on Thursday. A job interview of sorts. Really? My mother's face lit up with hope. Where? Morton Manufacturing. My father's face darkened. Don't waste your time. We're in talks with a big tech company about buying us out. Besides, we need experienced people, not. He gestured vaguely at my casual attire, basement dwellers. I just nodded, excusing myself from the table. Back in my basement office, I pulled up the latest acquisition documents on my laptop. The big tech company was actually Horizon Dynamics, one of Digiflow's shell corporations. Tomorrow, I would review the final terms of the purchase agreement. In 3 days, I would walk into Morton Manufacturing not as the disappointing daughter who quit her real job, but as the CEO of their new parent company. As I sat in my basement that night, surrounded by empty coffee cups and multiple monitors displaying real-time data from our global operations, I couldn't help but wonder how they would react. Would they finally understand that success doesn't always wear a suit and sit in a corner office? That sometimes it wears jeans and builds empires from a basement? My phone buzzed again. Our Asia-Pacific division needed approval for a new partnership agreement. As I reviewed the terms, I heard my father upstairs, probably still discussing my wasted potential with dinner guests. 3 more days, I thought to myself. Just 3 more days until they learn who's really been wasting their life in this basement. Thursday morning arrived with a weight of anticipation that made the air feel heavy. I stood in front of my mirror, finally trading my usual casual attire for the power suit I reserved for board meetings. The transformation was striking. Gone was the basement dweller my family pitied, replaced by the CEO of a $300 million tech company. Sophia, my mother's voice called down the basement stairs. Weren't you supposed to have that job interview today? I checked my watch, 8:45 a.m. The meeting at Morton Manufacturing was scheduled for 9:30. Yes, Mom, I'm leaving soon. Well, don't get your hopes up too high, she said, her voice carrying that familiar tone of cautious concern. Your father says the company's being sold. They probably won't be hiring. If only she knew. I grabbed my briefcase, the one I'd hidden in the back of my closet for the past 5 years, and headed upstairs. My mother was in the kitchen, and her eyes widened when she saw me. Oh, you look nice. She sounded genuinely surprised, as if she'd forgotten I once wore suits daily. But isn't it a bit much for an entry-level interview? It's not an entry-level position, Mom. She frowned. But you haven't worked in years. I kissed her cheek and headed for the door. Wish me luck. Just, don't be too disappointed if it doesn't work out, she called after me. I drove my modest Honda Civic to Morton Manufacturing's headquarters. The same building where I'd attended countless family Christmas parties and summer barbecues. The security guard, who'd known me since I was a child, smiled sympathetically as he issued me a visitor's badge. Good luck with the interview, Miss Sophia, he said kindly. Though I heard they're selling the company. Shame, really. Your father built this place from nothing. I thanked him and headed to the executive floor. My heart pounded, not from nervousness about the meeting, but from the knowledge that everything was about to change. The conference room was already full when I arrived. My father sat at the head of the table, looking tired and defeated. Uncle Peter, a board member, sat to his right. Various executives and lawyers filled the other seats. They all looked up when I entered, their expressions ranging from confusion to pity. My father's face darkened. Sophia, what are you doing here? The HR department is on the 2nd floor. Actually, I said, setting my briefcase on the table, I'm right where I need to be. Before he could respond, his assistant hurried in. Sir, the representatives from Horizon Dynamics have arrived. My father stood, straightening his tie. Send them in. The door opened again, and in walked Marcus Chen, my CFO, followed by our legal team. I poached Marcus from Google 2 years ago. He was brilliant at acquisitions and knew exactly how to play his role today. Good morning, everyone, Marcus said smoothly. I'm Marcus Chen, CFO of Horizon Dynamics. We're here to finalize the acquisition of Morton Manufacturing. My father nodded grimly. Yes, well, let's get this over with. Of course, Marcus continued, but first, our CEO would like to discuss some details personally. He turned to me and smiled. Miss Morton, would you like to begin? The room went absolutely silent. I could hear the wall clock ticking as every head turned toward me. My father's face had gone pale. What is this? he stammered. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a folder. Horizon Dynamics is a subsidiary of Digiflow Solutions, I explained, my voice steady despite my racing heart. We're interested in acquiring Morton Manufacturing for its patents and manufacturing capabilities. They'll be essential for our expansion into IoT devices. Uncle Peter leaned forward, his face red. This is ridiculous. You can't possibly. I slid the folder across the table. Our offer is fair, $120 million, well above market value. We'll retain all current employees and modernize the facilities. The digital transformation alone will increase efficiency by at least 40%. My father was staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. Digiflow Solutions, that's the tech company everyone's been talking about. The one revolutionizing digital transformation. Yes, I said simply. I founded it 5 years ago, from the basement. The next hour was a blur of documents, signatures, and shocked silence. My father barely spoke, mechanically signing where indicated. Uncle Peter kept opening and closing his mouth like a fish out of water. The lawyers exchanged confused glances, probably wondering how they'd missed this connection in their due diligence. When the meeting ended, people filed out quietly, leaving me alone with my father. He sat there, staring at the signed contracts. All this time, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper, while we thought you were wasting your life. I was building something, I finished for him. Something big. Why did he tell us? I laughed softly. Would you have believed me? You were so convinced I was a failure, Dad, you couldn't see past your own expectations. He looked up at me, and I saw tears in his eyes. The basement, all those hours on your laptop. I was running a global company. Those late-night calls, investor meetings, all those hours wasting time online. I was coordinating with development teams across 3 continents. But why keep it secret? Why let us think? At first, it was because I wasn't sure I would succeed, I admitted. Then, when Digiflow started taking off, I realized something. You and Mom, this family, you were so focused on traditional success. Corner offices, prestigious titles, things you could brag about at the country club. I needed to prove to myself more than anyone that I could succeed on my own terms. My father stood up slowly, looking older and smaller than I'd ever seen him. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Dad. But there is something you should know. I'm not buying Morton Manufacturing to prove a point. Your company has value, real value. With Digiflow's resources and technology, we can make it even stronger. He nodded, then did something he hadn't done in years. He hugged me. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry we didn't believe in you. That evening, I drove home to find my mother in a state of confused excitement. The news had spread quickly. Why didn't you tell us? She kept asking, following me around the kitchen. All this time we thought, we worried. I know, Mom, I said, pouring myself a cup of coffee. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. But the basement, you're really a CEO of a huge company? I pulled out my phone and showed her Digiflow's website, our global offices, the articles about our innovations. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the pages. Oh my God, she whispered. My daughter built all this. From the basement, I reminded her with a smile. The following weeks were interesting, to say the least. My parents struggled to reconcile their image of their unemployed daughter with the reality of who I was. The family dynamics shifted dramatically. Aunt Margaret stopped sending me job listings. Uncle Peter suddenly wanted to discuss business opportunities. Cousins who had mocked my basement dwelling now wanted internships at Digiflow. I kept my modest Honda and stayed in the basement for another month, just to prove a point. But eventually, I moved into my own place. A penthouse apartment I bought 2 years ago but had never used. My parents visited for the first time, and my mother cried when she saw the view. You could have had this all along, she said. You didn't have to stay in the basement. Actually, I did, I replied. The basement kept me humble. It reminded me that success isn't about appearances or other people's approval. It's about believing in yourself even when no one else does. My father, who had agreed to stay on as a consultant at Morton Manufacturing, was slowly adapting to the new reality. He'd stopped introducing me as his daughter who finally found her way and instead proudly told anyone who would listen about the company I'd built. 1 year after the acquisition, Morton Manufacturing's profits had doubled. The digital transformation was a success, and the IO devices we developed using their manufacturing capabilities or revolutionizing the market. My father's employees, many of whom had known me since childhood, finally understood why the CEO spent so much time working from the basement of her parents' house. At the company's anniversary party, I stood at the podium, looking out at the faces of both Morton and Digiflow employees. My family sat in the front row, my father beaming with a pride that was different from before. Not pride in the daughter who followed the expected path, but pride in the woman who dared to forge her own. 5 years ago, I began my speech. I had an idea and a basement. Everyone thought I was crazy to leave a prestigious job to become a basement entrepreneur. But sometimes the greatest achievements start in the most humble places. Success doesn't always wear a suit and sit in a corner office. Sometimes it wears jeans, drinks too much coffee, and builds an empire from a basement. The room erupted in laughter and applause. I caught my father's eye, and he nodded, finally understanding that his daughter hadn't been wasting her life after all. These days, I have a proper office, a corner suite on the top floor of Digiflow's headquarters. But I kept the basement exactly as it was, with its empty coffee cups and multiple monitors. Sometimes, when I need to remind myself where it all began, I go back there to work. After all, that basement wasn't just a workspace, it was where I learned the most valuable lesson of all. True success isn't about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't showing off your achievements, but quietly building something so magnificent that when people finally realize what you've done, it's already too late to matter.